October is Domestic Awareness Month, and we are here to empower others through education and awareness.
Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Today I'm talking to two dynamic women, Krysta McGowan, founder and CEO of Critique Consulting, and Celene Alexandria, a health communications specialist. To my surprise, both women experienced intimate partner violence while attending college. In our conversation today, Krysta and Celene discuss their experiences, their fears and insecurities, and at the same time, their power. They explained how they used their strength to free themselves from abuse. I hope you are inspired by our conversation. It takes a lot to share something so personal with others in such a public way. So I commend Krysta and Celene for sharing their stories. Krysta and Celene understand that through our lives and our pain, we have the power to inspire and empower others. Enjoy our conversation and see show notes for more information about Krysta and Celene. Also, make sure you give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Your support will ensure that we continue our journey in empowerment and impact. Thank you. The Empowerment Zone is all about empowerment and impact. And personal empowerment is a part of that. The only way we are able as individuals to live up to our fullest potential and make our unique impact in the world is to be empowered. And so we want you, all of our audience, individually and collectively, to make your unique impact in the world. So today, we are all about personal empowerment, and I have two wonderful guests with me today, Celene Alexandria and Krysta McGowan, these powerful women who are all about personal empowerment. So before we get to our topic today, Celene and Krysta, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Sure, I'll start off. Thank you so much, Ramona, for this opportunity. It's definitely always great to have these times to speak in an open forum and just like casual conversation. So a little bit about me. I went to Spelman, and I know you did all in the intro, but that was like a point in time for me to grow up as a woman and become this blossoming girl. And I really got a niche for public health while I was enjoying biology. And I knew I wanted to do something besides like just being a doctor. I wanted to help like on a large scale and cast a great net. But I had always worked with young women. But a lot of things that took me off my path, I was like, oh, I have to share this. I have to tell all the girls, like everybody behind me that's coming up, they're going to know everything. And I got to touch as many people as I can. So I started speaking and mentoring young women. I became a part of Big Brother, Big Sister as a big sister. And really just started like trying being a mentor, like kind of young. And I just been working from there, creating workshops around self-discovery and empowerment, and really finding yourself and unpacking your baggage and what self-worth, your value and body image really mean. And they mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of empowering yourself and what it really means to like take that step forward out of uncomfortable situations or relationships. And then I tried to like mesh that with my whole work. So I do a lot around women's health and global health in America and in Spanish-speaking countries. My focus is African American and Latino women when it comes to reproductive justice and general women's health. So I am applying for medical school to be an OBGYN for the next cycle. So fingers crossed. And to really make change on a national, local, regional level. And I worked in behavioral health. And so that was a really big thing for me to incorporate intimate partner violence with substance use coercion. So that was a topic that I was really big on, and actually pregnant mothers who are using medicated assisted treatment while being able to get their prenatal care. So I have a lot of little fun goodies in my little Barney bag, I call it. I'm a kid of the 90s, so Barney was real big with that. My Barney bag, I always fill it up with as much as I can so I can share these things with our communities, because representation matters, and we don't talk about enough of these kind of topics in our communities of Black and brown women of color.
Love it. So you're out there doing great work, empowering other women, particularly women of color. And that is some great work that you're doing in the medical field and the public health field. And I'm so glad you joined me today.
Thank
So
you.
tell us about you, Krysta.
Well, thank you so much, Ramona, for having me. This is definitely an honor to just talk and share, just like what Celene said. So thank you again for this opportunity. My name is Krysta McGowan, originally from the Bay Area, from San Jose, California. Traveled across the country to go to school at Clark Atlanta University, and that changed my life. Yes, shout out to the Panthers. So I actually got my Bachelor of Arts in Fashion and my MBA in Supply Chain Management from CAU. And from there, I started my image consulting firm. So I did work in corporate America for about 10 years, almost 10 years. And I just saw basically the steep learning curve specifically for Black and brown individuals when it comes to being professional and really how to carry themselves in a professional manner and to be confident. So that is one reason why I started my image consulting firm. Now I primarily work with professional women on their wardrobe, which automatically helps them to build confidence, and it really helps them show up as the powerhouses that they are. So I love what I do. I love the work that I do. I am also very involved in the community. We can talk about this later, but I do sit on a board of a nonprofit, and just continuing to build my network, do the work, and try to make a difference in any way that I can. So thank you for the opportunity.
Wow, Krysta, an image consulting firm and moving thousands of miles away to go to Clark Atlanta University. I'm just really excited about the work that you're doing and how you're personally empowering our communities. So as you both know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I have you as guests on today. So I want to know why you are so passionate about this issue.
Yeah, so Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I did grow up in an abusive environment. My dad was abusive. And so growing up, I would always say that I would never be in this type of situation. Both of my sisters, unfortunately, are survivors as well. But I always told myself again, like, I'm educated, I'm in a different environment. I have access to different types of men, and I would never consider myself to be in this situation. And then July 1st, 2017 came, and that's when I became a survivor of domestic violence. I most recently came out about my story this year. It was actually 5 years later. And I wanted to share my story for mainly two reasons. Number one is I didn't want to hold his secret any longer. I felt like I was protecting him, I was protecting his image, and it was becoming detrimental to my mental health. And so through therapy, through educating myself on the cycle, on why this happens, how this happens, what are the emotional triggers and things of that nature, that helped me to realize that number one, I wasn't the issue. And number two, how can I take my power back? So the first thing was, I'm no longer holding this secret for you. I need to share my story. And then the second part is also just to share my testimony. I am in a space now, and it took me about 4 to 5 years to where I can talk about it without crying without having any type of breakdown. And I felt that it was important for me to share that because I know that there are other women who look like me, who are professional women, who are beautiful, who are successful, but it still happened to them. And sometimes when we hear about domestic violence, we automatically have a certain image in our heads about the type of women that this happens to. And so for me, it was important to say, hey, you know, as an image consultant, as a business owner, yes, this happened to me. And not only did it happen to me, but I am now in a place where I am healthy. I did find love again, and you too can survive.
Thank you so much, Krysta, for sharing why you're passionate and, you know, the difficulty of even sharing your story. Taken 5 years, you know, just to be able to talk about it to others, talk about it publicly. We appreciate you sharing your story. Celene, how about you? Why are you so passionate about the issue of domestic violence?
Yeah, so I love celebrating Domestic Violence Awareness Month now. I actually didn't know that it was a month, and unfortunately, I say fortunately, but unfortunately, it falls during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So because Breast Cancer Awareness Month has such a push commercially and in the nonprofit sector, it kind of gets a little bit of shadow. So I love to like bring the both importance of both, because breast cancer screenings are just as important as the awareness of intimate partner violence and domestic violence in general. So I'm very passionate about that. The fact of just making people aware of the month, and this mental health day, World Mental Health Day in the month of October too. So just a lot of those revitalizing, resetting, and awareness of certain issues that come to women's health. So of course, I'm the first girl for that. So I definitely I have it as a great passion and importance. But for me to celebrate it and talk about it during it, and why the topic is so special to me and such a baby to me, is for the same reason as Krysta. I don't call myself a survivor. It always reminds me of the Disney Child song. But I actually call myself an advocate because I do a lot of work in the space of public health, and I'm really big on policy making and reform and equitable, services, and mental health, and getting behavioral health and mental health services, how those look, how you can create your own type of mental health service for you. So I definitely want to be in the space of helping, but it took me a while to really like get there as well, and to talk about it. So I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years, I told someone, actually like verbally, but I wasn't telling people like in public spaces, or I've grown as a content creator, like sharing as a content creator or things like that. So last year when the Spelman sister, and y'all were repping Clark Atlanta earlier, everybody who went to Spelman night is our homecoming the following weekend. So shout out to all Spelman nights as well. But I love the AUC. I got 2 degrees out of the AUC. So I love the AUC and any HBCU. But yeah, so speaking about it as Spelman wasn't a thing. And so growing as a content creator and being able to speak in these public platforms, a Spelman night came to me at a alumna meeting, and she was like sharing women's stories. A lot of them were breast cancer stories. And so I was like, hey, I told her my story a little bit. She was like, oh, we have to get you in the magazine. But I knew when I knew going public in this magazine, my mom was going to want to see me. I do take a lot of pictures. So I had professional pictures. And so really get in depth of that, she asked one poignant question that like, what was the worst, or what was your most memorable imagery? And so me having to relive the imagery, I was like, oh, I have to tell my mom, because when she reads this, she's going to really know like, oh, you're not just advocating as like a cute advocate. Like, I'm advocating for this and that. And, like I'm advocating for menopause too, but am I actually a survivor or someone who's been through this? So it hits a lot different. And I knew I had to tell her. So that is really what made me have to go, public with my family, and just really, really take the whole mask off. And like Krysta, I would cry. And I think when I read it to my a guy that I was dating at the time, I like choked up a little bit reading because I was kind of still embarrassed last year to even like share this on paper with him, to know like, oh, you were in that situation. I've told him, but just to like just relive kind of like that actual moment that I actually said in the magazine. It was called Hot Pink Mustard Seed is the name of it. So yeah, it's really important to me in those regards, and the fact that whenever I speak, I was almost a teenage mom at 16. So I always speak to girls about, loving yourself and what's that mean, and your relationship with men. We don't, as Black women, I don't know in other cultures, I can just speak from my own. We don't get that. We don't get that training or that coaching on how to have a healthy relationship with a young man. It's always get away from that boy, don't talk to them. But then when you do, it's like, what do I do? And then you're getting all this thrown at you. Oh, you're cute, you're this, let me take, I know in my household, in my culture, we didn't get that. So, talking to women, okay, how did you feel? What did he say? So I became sex education certified. And then I've just kind of really put my whole career towards like, I don't ever want another girl to have to go through. I know I can't save everybody, but I'm going to be Captain CC, saving all the girls who want to be saved and want to get, empowered again and own your power again, like Krysta talked about. So I really am very important about the self-image and self-value and worth, because that's where I was lacking at for those things to happen to me. And for I actually have been in 2 abusive relationships. And for both relationships, I knew they had flaws, but I knew that I needed to change some things within me too. So how can we put the responsibility on self? So in a lot of my workshops, we kind of break that down. And, a lot of people, I get a lot of flack for like, well, why can't you just leave? Why isn't that easy? So I'm very a stickler for, advocating for those kind of things and making sure it's important. That's kind of disrespectful to ask those kind of questions, because it's not that easy.
Thank you so much for sharing your passion and to know that you are actually out there educating young women on the issue so that they can be empowered and know how to have a healthy relationship. So I'm really curious, there are many reasons why people, women in particular, are get into abusive relationships, with which both of you implied about self-esteem, not really understanding what a healthy relationship is. Krysta, could you talk a little bit about, um, your own personal story in terms of relationships and what you learned and what you would teach others to know, hey, these are the things you need to develop personally and intentionally to ensure that you are a part of a healthy and affirming relationship?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So just to provide some statistics, 1 in 3 women, and that number is increasing, so it is getting worse. I believe since the pandemic, there's been 82% more reports on domestic violence since the pandemic. So 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience some form of intimate partner violence. And for me personally, my ex did not. So there's 2 parts of it. 1, I ignored the red flags. I thought that he had an anger issue. Well, I saw that he had an anger issue, but I never thought that it would be towards me, because he treated me differently. I've seen the way that he acted towards his friends, or other people that would get him upset, but I just never thought that it would happen to me. So number 1, I did not know the red flags. And then the second part was the emotional part of it. It didn't happen until 1 year into our relationship. So he didn't actually put his hands on me until literally the weekend, because we were celebrating our birthday together. And it was that weekend that it happened, almost to the day. And so for me, my first thought was, I want to help him. It wasn't, oh, I need to leave. I wasn't worried about my self-worth and what could happen to me. I wanted to say, well, let me help this Black man. Let me see what I can do to get him in a better place. I tried to get him in therapy, and I tried to provide all the resources that I needed for myself. And so I think just with not really putting myself first, that was the first issue. And that's something that I educate different teens and other women, is that you have to put yourself first. And that's not selfish, it's necessary. And don't feel guilty about it. I think as women, we can be very nurturing and just automatically put ourselves to the side. But in these types of cases, when you see the anger, when you see the jealousy, it starts off with them being angry, being jealous, and then all of a sudden you start being isolated. They start saying, oh, who are you talking to on the phone? Or who is that in the background? Or why are you spending so much time with this group? And then I slowly found myself by myself, and I really felt like I couldn't really talk to others. So the self-esteem part, putting yourself first unapologetically, and then also giving yourself the permission to share with others. Don't worry about being embarrassed. There are people in your lives that love you, that care about you. And I always say that is the first thing that I should have done, is shared more with my friends in the beginning. And like I mentioned, it was my birthday weekend, so I did have friends that were in town. So I was forced to tell them when it happened, because they clearly saw it. They didn't see it happen, but they saw the aftermath. But I just wish that I would have trusted my circle enough to share what I was going through. And so I think those would be probably the top three things: is number one, putting yourself first unapologetically, identifying the red flags and taking action. Don't wait for them to prove that they are capable of more. Because I said, oh, okay, he's just yelling. Okay, well, he didn't touch me this time. And he would always say the same thing. Hey, I didn't put my hands on you. I'll never hit you. I didn't put my hands on you, until he did. So believe them when they show you the first time. And then also entrusting a small circle, even if it's one or two individuals, entrusting them in sharing what's going on in your life. Because I'm naturally a very private person, and I'm trying to come out of that because it was detrimental. So just finding that tribe and that small circle of people that you do trust.
Thank you so much, Krysta, for those three recommendations and advice for people who, to prevent them from having abusive relationships, and those that are in it, how to move away from it. So many times, like you stated, women, we're always taking care of others. The most important thing you can do is take care of yourself. They even say that on the plane. Put the mask on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. So save yourself first. Take care of yourself. You are the only person that is responsible for you. And the fact of the matter is, if you're not taking care of you, no one else will. So thank you for expressing the importance of taking care of yourself and putting you first, as well as the other advice of identifying red flags, and then also being able to trust your friends and family. Because many times, no matter what challenge we're going through as individuals, we need the supporters around us to help us through, you know? So thank you so much, Krysta, for sharing. Celene, one of the things a lot of people don't realize is the fact that we do have intimate partner violence among teenagers and young adults, college students, those who are, who we still consider young people. And I know you have shared your story with me personally about being abused as a young person. So could you tell us a little bit about that, and what advice you would give to young people who are in abusive relationships?
Yeah, the first thing I always like to tell young women and even young men, because something is in a young man who has this anger, and it could be a same-sex relationship, any type of relationship. So I share this information with young women and young men, that you're not alone. And I wanted to be a part of that reason to make sure you're not alone, because I felt alone when I was going through it. And I felt really alone at that time, because you go through so many emotions. For me, going to an all-black school, I was at the top 10 of my class. And I was the smarty pants to go into Spelman where everybody's looking like Rudy Huxtable. Literally, Rudy Huxtable went to my school, y'all. So like, I was like, I do not fit for this. I didn't come from this background. I grew up half here in Detroit and half in Atlanta, and this just wasn't my reality. And so I just felt like I was so beneath everybody, and I was always the underdog and trying to go 2 steps up. And so I really felt alone. You know, we had mental health services at Morehouse, wrong school. We had mental health services at Morehouse School of Medicine too, because one of my relationships was when I was at Morehouse School of Medicine, and that's where I actually found the light and the way out, if you want to call it in quotations. But when I was at Spelman, I was in a deep, deep, deep dark place, and I really felt alone. And because I got pregnant at 16, I already had blows to my self-esteem and not really feeling up to the standard of the girls at Spelman. So that's my first thing that I always say is you're not alone. And if anything, you can call me, you can reach out to me. We start a group, whatever we need to do to make sure if you don't have money for services when it comes to insurance, but that goes to the health equity part, but I'll leave that alone for now. But yeah, so that was important for me because I felt alone. I felt as if I couldn't tell anybody. I got into the situation actually with someone who wasn't even in school. They would come around the AUC and kind of like lorder and kind of like, I feel like prey on us, but he was a couple of years older than me. And I felt like both situations, they caught me in deep, dark places where I really didn't know myself. I didn't know my purpose. I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt. I had been ostracized from a lot of my friends. I was difficult making friends. Girls had credit cards and BMWs. I had a Honda and no credit card, no credit to my name. And, so it was I just didn't feel my place and my footing in Spelman actually until after I graduated. So, those first steps, I was already in a vulnerable situation. And then for someone to come in and act, this wolf in sheep's clothing. And I always said one day when I write a article on this, I always say like I was sleeping in the bed with the devil. And how do you know like when you really sleeping in the bed with the devil? And I had gotten that deep in it, like literally I was sleeping with the devil. So I felt like I had become of that, like this evil spirit, and I was a bad person, and I deserved this because of certain mistakes I had made in my past. And so for young women, I would definitely say that that is where the young woman in me really fell short, and where I wanted to make sure that someone else didn't feel that, and that I could take that power back. But I would definitely that would be the main thing I think is you're not alone. And like Krysta said about speaking to your friends, I wish I would have told my friends. I didn't tell anyone until literally I just turned 30, and I didn't tell anyone about this until 27. So I graduated from college at 2020, and I turned 21. And then when I went to grad school and graduated, I was 23. So I hadn't told anyone, up until my late 20s.
Wow. I'm glad you shared that personal story about being at Spelman and feeling like you were a misfit. Growing up in Detroit, you stated, and then going to school with a Rudy Huxtable. For all of you who don't know, that's the youngest daughter on the Cosby Show, and then being around all of these upper class, what we would consider in the Black community, upper class women as colleagues, really could make you feel like a misfit and could lower your self-esteem as it did. And so self-esteem is a big issue. And we really have to raise the self-esteem of young women. And young women, you have to really nurture your self-esteem. Like Krysta said, self first. That is the biggest issue, because if you know what you're deserving of, you won't just you won't just allow anything in your life, right? Either you have standards or you don't. And sometimes when you have low self-esteem, your standards lower. And we want to make sure that women understand, and like you said, men too, because men are in abusive relationships as well, is that, there's no need to compare yourself to others. All of us do it. All of us do it, no matter where we are in our lives. But, you know, work to really accept yourself for who you are and the light that you are. So, in our final few minutes, Krysta, can you share with us any final thoughts you would have and what you would leave for young men and young women in this as we educate people in terms of Domestic Awareness Month?
Yeah, like Celene mentioned earlier, domestic violence awareness, it does get overpowered a lot by breast cancer awareness in the month of October. So what I would say is, and my final thoughts are just to keep the conversation going. As I stated earlier, this statistic has increased by 82% since the start of the pandemic. So it's not getting any better. And it's important for us to continue having this conversation because it's not going away. So whether that's with our friends, whether that's in public spaces, on our social media, we cannot continue to keep it quiet, especially in the Black community, because Black women are the most likely to die in an intimate partner violent situation. And we're the least likely to go to the police. And that might be a good opportunity for another show, but the police did nothing when I reported what happened to me. So we have to just continue to empower one another, continue to share our stories so that other women and men will know that they're not alone. But ultimately, we need to keep educating each other and ourselves so that we can put an end to domestic violence. So I would like to just share the hotline, if that's okay.
Yes,
and
please.
So there are two ways to get help and resources. The first thing is to text START. So text START to 88788, or you can call 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233.
Thank you so much, Krysta. Celene, any final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts definitely are for women who see themselves, just starting out. So that prevention, that preparedness is what I call it in public health, is ignore the noise and keep your blinders on. If I would have known, and just social media is just so relevant right now. So really putting, like a horse does when they get in the race, they actually put these things on their face where they're focused on what they're doing and running their race. And that would definitely cut down on a lot of the, naysayer, you're trying to impress this, you don't like the skin you're in, and, trying to appease other, you delete your post because you don't get enough likes. A lot of that starts there to, stem from a lot of those intimate partner violence issues that we see later that, come up and bubble up. But for women that are right in the middle of it, Krysta, I wholeheartedly respect, the numbers and the hotlines, but that didn't relate to me. I didn't feel comfortable enough calling and picking up the phone and talking to a stranger. And so when I say and tell people, like, you're not alone, like, that trusted person at school, that trusted friend, I didn't feel comfortable calling the police either. So Krysta has done way more than me. Okay. I was not trying to get formal at all in this situation. I wanted to keep it on the DL, and I didn't want to be alerted. I didn't want any, light on it, visibility, and to, go to a trusted teacher, go to your mental health. All schools have mental health services, and, share and just talk. If you don't want to share, a lot of girls come up to me and they say it's their friend or their cousin or something, but it's really them that's going through it. And that's okay. But to talk about it and get it out, is another thing. And that you are going, when it's ready to leave and you're done with this situation, you're going to be so fed up, because I was either at the place where I was going to jail, I was going to kill somebody, he was going to kill me, or I was going to die. So, I had a good 3 options. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go, but this can't. In my darkest moment, you know, just sitting in a closet, like hiding from this individual is where I was like, I really have to get out of this, and then getting pregnant by that person. So I had a lot of life decisions happening to me at once when I was 22, 23 years old, trying to, you know, I was in grad school and all that. So but I tell women it's so easy to, you know, we get a lot of resources, but we don't know what to do with them, or we don't know, you know, really how to utilize them or which way to go. And I always say, like, you're never alone. And if you really know that there is something that you want to do to change it, you're going to be ready to do that. And there are small groups, there's nonprofits. If you're in a situation where you're living with that person, you do not have to stay there. Like, there are resources, and just be up on all that's available. Because everybody who's out there kind of criticizing you, you know, that's what you're up against, and that's society's standards and acceptance of you. And that's really the biggest cloud that's over a lot of our heads when we feel the shame of this, especially as Black women, when we're supposed to be, we're taught to be all, you know, hard and independent and all that jazz. So those are my main things. And I'm very, very poignant on the fact that if you need someone to call, like, even like all my content creation and all that, I'm a very girl's girl. And if you want to talk, chit chat, sit down, we're going to share the LinkedIn information. And I would, you know, love to, you know, to connect with anyone going through it. And it's always remains private. But my main savior was going into mental health services. And I was in therapy for about 2 to 3 years. And I unpacked my baggage, and I sat there and cried with the white noise. And she was a Spelman sister and a soror of mine. So I feel very comfortable in the situation. So find a therapist, find a psychologist, psychiatrist that works for you if those services are available, especially if you're in college. You're paying for them, they're available. You just need to find them and utilize them, because they're getting paid somehow. So it's based off your tuition. And so therefore they're there for you to use, just like the kitchen there, just like the room and board. It's in your tuition. You paying for it, you're getting loans, you're getting in debt for it. So utilize all options just like you do with everything else. And happy homecoming to everyone.
Thank you, Krysta and Celene. No shame, share. Again, I repeat, no shame, share. Whether you're taking Krysta's advice and calling the hotline, calling somebody anonymously, connecting with someone anonymously, share. The other option, as Celene has discussed, share with a trusted professional, a family member, a friend, a teacher, someone. So that you can get the support around you need in order to get out of abusive relationships. So we are so happy to have Krysta and Celene here to share their stories, so they can empower you, so that you can be all that you can be and make your unique impact in the world. So now we have reached our college strategies portion of our interview, and we have two graduates from historically Black colleges and universities, also a part of the universities of the Atlanta University Center, which actually has 6 historically Black colleges and universities all in one community. So, Krysta and Celene. Krysta, you can go first. Could you please tell us what college or colleges did you attend? What were your majors and degree or degrees? And what strategy would you give students to ensure that they're successful in college?
Yes, thank you. So I attended Clark Atlanta University. I have my Bachelor of Arts in Fashion Merchandising with a minor in business. And then a mentor of mine talked to me about going to grad school. So I also earned my Master's of Business Administration with a concentration in supply chain management. So my college strategy is to network. Get involved in as many things, as many organizations, as many clubs as you can, because this is the most critical time in your life to build that solid network and foundation. I had found my closest friends in college. my best mentors in college. And it really just came from me trying a bunch of things. I played volleyball for CAU. I was SGA graduate vice president. I was in the California Club. I was just involved volunteering. I was a TA for Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. So I was able to really meet so many amazing people. And even as an alum, going to events and continuing to reach back and see how I can volunteer, how can I get involved. And that's how I met Ramona in the restroom of an event during Convocation Week, I believe, during President French's investiture. And that, and alone, that relationship has blossomed with me being able to be a guest here on her podcast today. So definitely build your network, and just spread your wings, try everything, and don't take time for granted because college days swiftly pass.
Thank you so much, Krysta. Make sure you network and build those relationships with your colleagues as well as your professors. Thank you, Krysta. Celene.
Yes. So I went to Spelman College for undergrad. I graduated with a bachelor's of science in biology, with a concentration heavily on pre-med, with all those, prerequisites. And then I went to Morehouse School of Medicine, in the AUC as well for my master's of public health. And I had an emphasis on women's health and global health. My strategies, I have another degree, but it's not from HBC. I don't know if we're
yeah, tell us.
My second master's is from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois, and it's a master's in science, biotechnology. So my strategies, I was not involved, but I would love to say that would be a great strategy, and to be very strategic about how it's to be involved. Not just that it looks good on your resume, but that colleges to build you as an adult, and to really open your mind. So any new experience, anything you haven't experienced, anything that you would like to try. I tried archery in school. I did badminton. I did all kind of stuff. So I would say be involved, but be strategic and open up your mind to, experiencing life as an adult. Adulting is hard. And I would say my second strategy is unpack the adulting. Practice adulting while you're in college. I would say that you don't get practice when you graduate from college or grad school. It is like all the time, 100% job, 24/7. So practice adulting. And three, it kind of piggybacks off of some advice I gave earlier in the podcast, but it would be to, again, ignore the noise and put your blinders on. That's one thing I live by. Just block a lot out. Just block it. If it, I tell all my mentees at Spelman, if it's not about your degree, if it's not about making money, if it's not about your success, your betterment, your empowerment, you feeling good. If you don't feel good when you do it, don't do it again. You can bump your head once, but keep your blinders on the prize, and your prize is graduating and making it to the next step, and making sure you're able to plan for it, and execute appropriately. You can't do that when you're paying attention to too much noise.
Thank you, Celene. I have one follow-up question with that. What do you mean by practice adulting?
Practice adulting is learning how to cook, learning how to clean, learning how to pay your bills on time, learning how to budget, be fiscally and financially responsible, being on a financial diet, learning how to travel, learning, the best hygiene techniques. I know we learned hygiene back when we were 5, but it is some stuff now. I never knew about getting facials. I never about using cuticle oil, getting wax treatments, going natural. There's certain stuff that your mom was doing for you that she, it's like a pimple, a bump. It's like, how do you do these things? Like, how does that look? Even your oral hygiene, like you might've been brushing your teeth, but how do you floss correctly? Do you put your whiteners on? Like that the soft girl life, that's something you got to practice. If that's that a lot of girls are looking for now, girl, to being that it girl. Like it's a whole way of it. It's a way to, it's an art, a technique to it.
I love it. And that's what I was assuming, but I wanted to make sure our audience had the the correct connotation of what you meant by practicing adulting. You know, financial literacy is extremely important, and some of the times we get out there and we don't know how to budget. We don't know how to manage our money. We don't understand the importance of self-esteem and self-care. You know, health being included in that. I love that advice. So Celene states, be strategic and open-minded, practice adulting, and most of all, keep your eye on the prize as you attend school. Thank you so much, Krysta McGowan and Celene Alexandria, for joining me today. It's great to have you as guests.
Thank you again.
Thank you, ladies.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.